on this.
Thank you.
Atkinson.
That the vote on the motion for a resolution on the state of play of negotiations with the UK be taken off the agenda. During negotiations, the European Parliament does not and should not play any formal role. This is just grandstanding obstruction, offering headlines for Guy Verhofstadt. The real Conservatives in here understand free market principles. The groups opposite do not. Instead, I suggest that you go back to your countries and request that your heads of state request that Michel Barnier negotiates a free trade deal with the UK, because that's all in your interest, because if not, your economies will suffer. That's a more constructive use of time. Otherwise, we're just going to walk away because we have 40 free trade agreements that we can sign up to the day we walk out of here. So, colleagues, do the right thing.
I shall give the floor to Mr. Verhofstadt to speak against.
My proposal is not to agree with the proposal, because I think it's the role of the Parliament to steer the whole process, as we have to approve at the end the outcome of the negotiations. And better to do it after negotiation has been done. We have to do it in advance. And that is what we do, especially because in this resolution we put all the emphasis on the citizens' rights. Well, it's the Parliament to defend the rights of the citizens, our European citizens, but also the UK citizens living on the continent. And I think it's the right moment to do it, just before the next negotiation round and before the European Council will take a position. Thank you, President.
I now put to the vote the request from the ENF group, by virtue of which they request that the debate on the state of play of negotiations with the UK not be wound up by resolution. Those in favour? Those against? Abstentions? The proposal is rejected, and so the agenda will not be modified to that effect. The Green EFA group has requested that the Commission statement setting out scientific criteria for the determination of endocrine disrupting properties be added on Tuesday afternoon. And colleague Lamberts, you have the floor on that.
Thank you, Mr. President. Endocrine disruptors is something that our citizens come to us often about. They're concerned about this. Europe allows us to market fish which are poisoned, and of course this poison spreads throughout the food chain. There was a very close vote in the Environment Committee, so I think it makes sense for us to have a debate here. We know the extent to which science, in inverted commas, is used in a highly questionable way to justify decisions which actually give precedence to the companies that make these products. So I think we're to discuss this here. Thank you.
Does anyone wish to speak against this proposal from the Green Group? I put it to the vote then. Those in favour of the proposal made by the Greens as set up by Mr. Lamberts. Those against? Abstentions? We'll have a check on this.
Voto aperto.
The voting is open.
Il voto.
The vote is closed. The proposal is carried. Therefore, there will be a discussion on the objection pursuant to Rule 106, Draft Commission Regulation amending Annex 2 to Regulation 1107 of 2009, setting out scientific criteria for the determination of endocrine disrupting properties, and that will be added to the business of Tuesday afternoon, and the agenda is modified accordingly. We will now move to the issue of Spain, Catalonia. There have been a number of requests. Perhaps I can explain the method to begin with. There have been a number of requests submitted by various political groups. First and foremost, I would like to ask the Chamber if you agree or not to have the debate. If so, when we should have that debate, and then thereafter we will discuss the title of the debate, because there are three different groups with different views. Ska Keller, did you wish to come in?
Yes, thank you. We had asked for a debate indeed that I would like to ask colleagues to vote about, because however you feel about the referendum, I think we can as Europe not turn a blind eye to the police violence that we've seen yesterday in Catalonia, and violence can never be used as a tool for solving political conflicts. Only politics can solve political conflicts. And it's all clear that we need dialogue now. That is the only way forward, and therefore Europe needs to watch closely, and we should offer mediation in that way as well, in order to overcome the problem that we have. And therefore we urge you to support our request for debate on the police violence in Catalonia against peaceful citizens. Thank you.
Onorevole Ska Keller.
Member Ska Keller, before moving on to the title of the debate, and you set out your views thereon, I wish to know if the Chamber is in favour of holding such a debate. Those in favour of a debate on the question of Spain and Catalonia, those against? Abstentions? Right. The debate will be held. There are a number of proposals as regards the timing. The Greens are suggesting Tuesday, GUI ALDE Wednesday. Socialist EPP are proposing Thursday.
Non c'è molto da ridere.
I don't think this is a matter of amusement, and we're talking about serious matters here, and there is no cause for laughter.
Onorevole Pittella, prego.
Mr. Pittella, please. Simply, we're in favour of having it on Wednesday. That would be acceptable to us.
Allora, I Verdi
I see. The Greens are sticking by Tuesday. How about Wednesday? Wednesday, you agree to that? Can we all agree on Wednesday then? Is that accepted? The debate will take place on Wednesday. Morning. There are requests to have the Commission in attendance, and I think therefore it's preferable to hold it in the morning. Morning, all right? Fine.
Bisogna votare su mattina e pomeriggio.
Do we need to vote on whether it should be morning or afternoon or not? Can we resolve it otherwise?
Onorevole Bustinaro, prego.
Grazie. Mr. President, as far as we know, Wednesday morning we shall have a debate, preparation of the Council meeting. Does we change the agenda for Wednesday morning? Shall we move it somewhere? We have to decide when. It's not...
Si riduce un po' il tempo di parola questo.
Well, it'll depend on speaking time. That's reduced. Now, if you can't agree, then perhaps you should vote.
C'è la proposta del...
There's a proposal from the EPP and the Liberal group that the vote be taken in the afternoon. Those in not vote, hold the debate in the afternoon. Those in favour of that, please show. Those against. Abstentions. Seems to me then there's an agreement that it be taken in the afternoon. Yes, please. Carver.
Well, it seems you've jumped the gun before I spoke. The eyes of the world, Mr. President, are on the European Union here. To delay this till Wednesday, I think it would send a clear message and embarrass a certain member state if we were to go ahead and have this debate well, certainly tomorrow at the very earliest. That's a reasonable request. The eyes of the world are looking at the European Union and the European Parliament to speak on this issue. I feel the debate should take place on Tuesday, sir.
La plenaria ha votato.
But the plenary has voted, and the debate will be held on Wednesday afternoon, but as the first item on the agenda. Let's move on now to deal with the title of this debate. The Greens and GUI have asked that the Commission statement be on the massive police violence against peaceful citizens in Catalonia. Just one moment. The EPP group and the S&D group and ALDE have called for a statement on the Constitution, rule of law and fundamental rights in Spain in the light of the events in Catalonia. The EFDD group proposed the following: a Commission statement on the rule of law and the violent hostile actions by the Spanish government against the people of Catalonia. The EFDD, unlike the others, requests that the discussion be concluded with a resolution. So let us now begin to listen to the speakers. Ms. Keller, supporting the request from the Greens and GUI groups.
Thank you. Indeed, we requested this title because there will be certainly different views about the referendum, yes, no, whatever. But I think we can have a very clear united stance when it comes to that violence is never a way how to solve a political problem. And here in this case, like in every other political conflict, we need to have a political solution. We need to have dialogue. We need to see what we can also do from the European level to help, to mediate, to help solving the problem. And for that we need to watch closely what is happening, and we need to offer all the help we can do. We should ask the Commission what they intend to do. We should ask the Commission to offer mediation in that sense. There has been calls for international mediation, and that's why we think this title is the one where we can unite around. Thank you.
Chi è contro questa proposta?
Those against, Ms. Rodriguez?
Of course,
S&D group. Can I, Mr. President?
No. Is only against the...
Yes, I have another proposal of title.
Ok. Please. Perché avevo chiesto se c'era qualcuno...
I asked if there were objections to the Ska Keller proposal, if anyone wished to speak against it.
Perfetto. Onorevole Rodrigues.
Ms. Rodriguez.
We are worried with the situation of violence and lack of dialogue in Catalonia. Nevertheless, the problem is larger than this. That's why S&D Group is proposing the following title. This should be a debate in the Commission statement on the Constitution, rule of law and fundamental rights in Spain in the light of the events of Catalonia. So this is the title my group is proposing, and this is backed also by other groups.
Poi per sapere quali sono gli altri.
I'd like to know the other groups that are in support of the proposal. Ms. Grossetête?
A sostegno della proposta.
in support of the proposal?
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Oui, je voudrais apporter.
Thank you, President. Yes, I wish to support what Mrs. Rodriguez has just said on behalf of the Socialists. For the EPP group, I have to say that there are some fundamental principles which we feel should be respected. Let us recall that the European Union has never agreed to get involved or interfere in referenda being held in any member state, particularly an anti-constitutional referendum. And what is important, however, is to remember what our fundamental principles are in the EU. That is, the rule of law must be enforced and respected. And that is the reason why, on behalf of the EPP group, I second the motion from the Socialist group through Mrs. Rodriguez. And we would like the title to be The Constitution, Rule of Law, Fundamental Rights in Spain in the light of the events in Catalonia.
Yes, I'd like to support this proposal. I entirely agree with what Ska Keller said, but not her conclusion, because actually she actually pointed to a debate that has to be far broader, and that's why in the title we propose we talk also about fundamental rights, because at the end of the day that's what we're about. I think that's the best way, a broad title rather than to paint oneself into a corner in any way. Thank you.
Honorable Golnisch, prego, prego.
Yes, go ahead, please, Mr. Golnisch.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, President. I think that none of the titles is suitable for a very simple reason, and that is that each title really preempts the content of the debate. If you're talking about condemning the Spanish state, that's one thing, but if you talk about the rule of law, then one supposes that there's been a violation of that. By whom? Events are taking place in this part of Spain, or people come with preconceived ideas and don't intend to change their minds, therefore there's no point in it in the end, in the first place. Or what I think is that we should have a really proper open discussion. Therefore it should be open to talk about the events that have taken place in Catalonia, and that's the end of it. I think the situation in Catalonia is quite sufficient as a title.
L'onorevole ARNOTT, poi l'onorevole Weber.
Mr. Arnott and then Mr. Weber.
Deve presentare la richiesta.
Arnott for the EFDD group proposal, and I would point out that it's calling for a resolution as well, and that's the difference, the others.
To see those police actions, to see 761 injuries, to see ballot boxes being seized, that is alien to everything that we cherish if we claim to uphold democracy. These matters are questions of rule of law, they're questions of self-determination, and they're also questions of the actions of the police. And that's why our proposal is to include all of those elements that have been mentioned on both sides. But actually the important point here is not just the title of the debate, but actually that this doesn't end up being something that is brushed under the carpet. What is happening in Catalonia is something which could become an incredibly serious and major diplomatic issue in months and years to come, and this is something which needs to be got right. So we can't brush this under the carpet, and one thing that I would say is we mustn't forget that it is important within our motion that we add a resolution as part of the debate. It's not just about having the debate, it's about winding it up with a resolution so that we're actually saying something.
Grazie. Onorevole, la parola, onorevole.
Thank you. Mr. Weber has the floor now.
Colleagues, we're all aware that the situation is serious and the news is very worrying. It's clear we need a debate. We're going to have a debate. But the question is title. We reached out to the Greens and suggested that we cover fundamental rights in the resolution. So we're trying to build bridges with you. I failed to see why we have to disagree about this. There seems to be a broad consensus behind the Socialists and Democrats. Let's get behind that and discuss it in those terms. So, Mr. President, I would ask you to vote the Socialist proposal first. Thank you.
Onorevole CARTHY.
And Mr. CARTHY.
Mr. President, while I think the most important thing is that we have a debate, it's quite clear that there are members of this Parliament who have something to be fearful of. Let's just remind ourselves about what we saw yesterday. It wasn't clashes between police and protesters. What we saw was an EU member state using armed police to physically prevent people from exercising their right to vote. We need to ensure that the voice of this Parliament is strong and robust, and that we defend the rights of the people of Catalonia and in turn defend the rights of Democrats right across the European Union.
Mi può dire, no, non ho capito bene.
Now, I wasn't certain of which proposal you were speaking in support of. The GUI proposal, was that it? You were speaking in support of the GUI group proposal? Zimmer as well. Yes, go ahead.
Ja, das klarzustellen. Erstens,
Well, to make things clear, first of all, we support this proposal and would have brought it ourselves, and we also support what Ska Keller has said and in that wording, but we also think that we need to ensure that fundamental rights have to be included, and perhaps we can find a common solution. But I'd like to say that I'm against a resolution, because really that would be a form of involvement and interference that we really should not be getting involved in. I think this is something we should leave be and simply send out a very clear signal.
González Pons.
Mr. González Pons.
Ci sono I colleghi che chiedono di parlare.
These are the colleagues who've requested to speak.
Presidente. Thank you, Mr. President. I think I'm the first Spaniard to take the floor this afternoon. And I would ask all members to be aware of how serious this matter is. We can't be superficial in addressing it. It's not just about the images yesterday. Images nobody wanted to see. What's at play is also a unilateral declaration of independence, which is contrary to the Spanish Constitution. This could break up my country. So with all due respect, I would urge that we move on to the majority proposal first, vote that first, then we hold a debate, and then we hold a debate, preferably with the Commission in attendance, and we hear from the presidents so that we have a high-level debate. There are some things you just can't play around with in a year. We're here to come together. What the European Parliament can't do is contribute to the break-up and division.
Onorevole Zimmer,
Ms. Zimmer, as I understand it, you're in favour of Mr. Weber's proposal to have a title that also includes the aspect of rights. So can we vote the Weber proposal? Would the Green Group agree to that? In which case I think there's a broad majority. EFTD is against the proposal, I take it.
Calma.
May I call for order? Let us vote on the proposal as presented by Mr. Weber, which covers all of the proposals using the title that was used in the Socialist Group proposal: Constitution, Rule of Law and Fundamental Rights in Spain in the light of the events of Catalonia. Those in favour? Those against? Abstentions? In which case the proposal is approved, and that debate will be held on Wednesday in the afternoon as the first item on the afternoon's agenda. Now we come to Mr. Mato's report on the management, conservation and control measures applicable in the ICCAT Convention area.
C'è un presidente, un vicepresidente. Primo intervento è quello